People ask me this a lot. If you started investing again at 30, what would you actually do differently? And there's one word that comes up before anything else. Hi, I'm Rupa Poppet, the founder and managing partner of Arāya Ventures and the House of Arāya. If I started investing again at 30, there are 4 things that I would do differently. The first thing that I would do differently is access. And the reason I say that is that when I did my first investment, it was the only deal I saw. And I went in. And that was a successful exit, which is great. But then I did number 2, 3, 4, and 5 very quickly in succession. But I wasn't seeing enough of the opportunities that were fundraising at that moment in time. And so why access is so important is that you're looking for 1 or 2 of those outlier returns and outlier opportunities. So if you're not seeing enough of the opportunities, that's one of the reasons. And the second is if you're not seeing vetted deals as well, deals that have had some sort of endorsement or some sort of support around their due diligence as well. Just to give you an example, at Arāya Ventures, we look at over 3,000 deals a year and we invest in less than 30 of them. So we're seeing a huge pipeline of opportunities. When I started, I was literally seeing the deals that I was investing in and maybe a few more than that. And that's firstly where the problem comes. I think the second part of that is really about the vetting. And so one of the things, that I'm really passionate about with House of Arāya as well is that we do all that work, taking it from 3,000 to just 30 companies a year. And of those, we then have gone through quite a diligence process to get there from both due diligence, customer referencing, market sizing, doing our own competitor analysis. So we spend a lot of time getting to those final vetted 30 that we look at. We then bring 8 to 12 of those a year into the House of Arāya to House of Arāya members. So there's already a vetting process that has essentially taken place to get those companies to that stage. And so that's really the most important thing I would say is access and how I might have done it differently if I was starting again. The second thing is portfolio construction, because we all know that with angel investing, and I've talked about it quite a lot in my videos, that we need to have 1 or 2 outlier outcomes. And in order to do that, we need to have a big enough portfolio. We talk about it in Arāya Signal quite a lot as well, is that probably 10 isn't even enough in a portfolio to have that potential for the outsized return. And so you're really looking at a minimum of 10 and ideally 20 or more companies in a portfolio. And you're looking for 1 or 2 companies within that to provide the outsized return that provides the return of your entire portfolio. When I started, I did the first investment, got very excited and did number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5 very, very quickly in succession. But what I didn't have was that portfolio construction mentality and thinking about what the whole portfolio looks like. And now when I think about it, really, you think about portfolio construction over 3 to 4 years. You need to be thinking about how many companies you're going to deploy over that 3 to 4 year period. So you're thinking about what's your total pot. You then work out how much you might want to keep and reserve for follow-ons in your best companies as well. And then in your core portfolio, you're looking at how much you will invest per company in order to have enough of a portfolio to be able to have that outsized return. So if I was starting again, I would definitely be thinking about that total pot earlier on and thinking about how much that actually means I should be deploying into each of the companies in order to make the entire portfolio. The other thing with portfolio construction as well is that angel investors that I know that get started and stop very quickly is that they've backed a friend, they've backed a cousin, or they've seen 1 or 2 startups and they've gone ahead and backed those companies, but they've never had that portfolio approach. And normally in those situations, if one of those companies doesn't deliver them the outcome that they're looking for, they all of a sudden decide that angel investing isn't for them, or that they're not very good at it, or it's too risky. And that's because they never started with this portfolio construction mindset in the first place. The third thing that I do if I was starting again was think about my thesis in a bit more detail. And what I mean by that is that you don't have to have it all figured out. It took me ages during the journey to figure out the full thesis that I wanted to invest against, but just having somewhere to start. And there's 2 reasons that you could really develop your thesis from. One is either you have a specific skill set or some knowledge or some domain expertise or something that gives you the raison d'etre for starting to invest in a specific sector. I'll give you a really simple example. I've seen a lot of doctors recently becoming angel investors and focusing very much on early healthcare startups. And you can see why that would be like a really great fit for a thesis, because they have a unique lens that might help them spot an outlier that somebody else might not spot. And that would give them the edge. The other way you can think about thesis is actually maybe it's not a domain expertise. Like healthcare was never a domain expertise for me, for example. But maybe actually you look at why you're interested in a specific sector. So healthcare is a perfect example. I was really interested in the sector, but it wasn't something that I had an expertise in. So I went to learn about it. I joined other DD sessions with other investors who were looking at healthcare startups, and I immersed myself in understanding the space. So you can either build your thesis from a domain expertise or even from an interest perspective. The other thing right now is that AI offers such a huge opportunity for investors to really build a really interesting portfolio. And there are so many opportunities that are coming up in this space. And so I think you can even build a broader thesis and say, actually, it's anything that touches AI, for example, or these frontier technologies. And I think it's really about understanding exactly where your interest lies and if there is a domain expertise, whether that can be applied as well. The fourth thing and the final thing that I would think about again if I was starting again with investing is education. I really learned as I went. And I learned through successes, like my first startup ended up as an exit, but I also learned through, things that didn't go so well in my portfolio. And I also learned through the sizes that I ended up investing in because I didn't have, for example, that portfolio construction model that we talked about right at the beginning. And so I think education is a really key part. And if I was to start again, I would spend way more time in educating myself on what it takes to build a successful angel portfolio while deploying at the same time. And that's something that we've really built into House of Arāya. I feel so strongly that especially in those early days or even, in those first 5 to 10 investments, having that discipline and having that education that sits alongside it can really give you the outlier opportunity to pick those companies that are going to drive those returns for your portfolio. And so I feel education is a really important part of that. If I was to start again, I would definitely focus more on education alongside my investing process as well. So just in summary, the 4 things that I would focus on again if I was starting at 30. Number 1 is access. I would be thinking about how do I access the most successful and vetted deals that I can. Number 2 is portfolio construction. How can I construct a portfolio that has the best chances of creating those outlier returns that we all want within our portfolio? Number 3 is thesis. So thinking about, do I have a domain expertise or a raison d'etre for building an investment portfolio in a specific sector? Or is it that I have an interest and I'm willing to read up and get ready to be an investor in that sector? And number 4 is education and really understanding and honing in on why I'm doing this, what it is that I'm actually doing, and understanding that prior and alongside building the portfolio itself. Before your first investment or before your next one, I would suggest looking at one thing. We've built at House of Arāya an angel readiness assessment. 8 questions, it will take about 5 minutes, and it will show you exactly where you stand across 4 key areas: financial readiness, knowledge network, and access. Most people find at least one gap they hadn't seen clearly before when they do this assessment. It just gives you a really honest read on where you are now, and the link is in the description.